Welcome to the Public Voice Salon. My name is John Bredin, and we are in Hoboken, New Jersey, on the waterfront tonight, starting our show. It's June 22nd, and my lovely wife Claudia is filming me now. This is our joint project, this television show, to bring some articulation to the airwaves and as a way for us to find our voices and help other people find their public voices, and also show some things that are not being featured on mainstream media, certain topics that have to do with art and politics. And you know, it's just a very relaxing place where I am right now. It's a beautiful place, the Hoboken waterfront, and it's about 7:30 now, according to the big clock tower that's on the Lackawanna train station, which this is a beautiful, you see that lovely clock tower there? It's very old-fashioned. It's kind of very atmospheric, and so is the whole Hoboken train station, really. You can see the color, the green oxidation, same color as the Statue of Liberty, actually. And it's just so beautiful to look at. If you look at the Statue of Liberty, I mean the Hoboken train station there, and inside it's also very beautiful. It's very almost looks like a European train station. That's what Jonathan Ames, who's a writer, once said. And behind me is the Hudson River, beautiful Hudson River flowing down from upstate New York, and emanates in a little lake called the Tear of the Clouds. And it comes down into this huge tidal basin that sort of flows back and forth. You have salt water flowing in and from the ocean when the tide comes in, and you have fresh water coming out, and it meets in the middle. And behind me I could hear the waves splashing, and it's very, very, very soothing and beautiful. Right behind me is New York City. I think we have the best view of Manhattan anywhere from the Jersey side. And so we only have maybe about a few minutes of daylight left to film here, and I just want to express some thoughts and just take some time to be a human being, and not have some, you know, not selling a product. Okay, just trying to be myself. I'm trying to really find my consciousness. And to do it on the airwaves, and to show other people that you could find your consciousness, that you can learn how to articulate and say things that matter. I think we're living in a society now in which it's more difficult to express ourselves, given the educational system, how it's sort of, you know, really pushing a very, very, very business type program on people, and very narrow technocratic type of education policy, where they're taking out literature and the humanities and philosophy. And so people have forgotten how to talk, and I've forgotten how to talk sometimes too, and I have to remember how to talk. And right now I'm talking to you, the audience, and I'm talking to my wife Claudia, who's standing here, and I'm also talking to anybody who happens to be walking by and overhearing me. This is really not a typical television show. It's hard to explain what it is. Maybe it's, I could say it's unclassifiable, but I will say that it is an educational project, because I'm a teacher, and I'm an English teacher, and I'm currently teaching at Essex County College in Newark. I'm a professor of English and writing, and also amongst English teachers like myself, I'm a progressive educator. We very much believe in the power of speech and talking and dialogue. I'm a very dialogic-based person in my pedagogy and my philosophy of teaching. I think we need to get back to each other, get back into talking to each other as people. Now, Claudia just made a note and said that it's getting dark. So I guess we're going to have to stop filming at this point now, but we will continue filming at another time. But I just wanted to take this time to, and I think we have to do this more often, and I think what I need to do more on the show is just to talk more try to figure out what is the mission of the show, because this is a constructivist project, this is a dialogical project, and it's a thinking project, and I want other people to see what a human being thinking looks like, right? With all the pauses and the ums and the ahs and the thinking because when you're really thinking, it's not like what it looks like when you're watching Fox News and even CNBC, where these are just like robots talking at you, and it's just so scripted, and it's become very boring. I think television has become extremely boring, like large elements of our culture, of our iPodded culture. And I'm trying to get back to basics, just to people hanging out and talking with each other and telling stories, and me telling stories, and learning how to think and learning how to talk on the air, so we can decolonize the airwaves, because the airwaves have been colonized. Okay, they have been colonized by a corporate agenda, and we want to decolonize them for human beings, and to humanize television. And that's what this is all about. It's a pedagogical, educational, political, and social project, and we welcome you to join me here on the air, because I love just talking here by myself, but I love talking to other people too, and I love talking to my wife Claudia, who's filming me right now and who's listening to me. And the idea of the show is, if other people are walking by and they maybe, they're curious about what's happening, they could join us and be part of a dialogue, part of a conversation. So we're trying to really break down the alienation in our society now. Everybody's kind of, just, staring at their own little iPod screen, and they're not looking at other people. So we're trying to, this person just like smiled at me, a biker just gave me some energy, some good energy, guy on a bicycle. And, Hoboken's a very bike-friendly town. Our mayor, Dawn Zimmer, just put in some bike lanes, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So we are a show about politics, but we're also about people, and we're about arts and culture and learning and loving, and with all that there is a spiritual process also. I'm a very spiritual person. I belong to the network of spiritual progressives, and my spirituality, my politics are very much together, and I believe in creating a world based on love and caring. And Claudia is telling me that it is getting dark now, so you're just seeing my face, I guess, in the darkness. Maybe that's the light shining in the darkness, but it's the light through me. It's the spirit in me that's trying to keep alive some culture in our fragmented society. It's become very fake and very corporatized and very robotic, and we're trying to keep humanity alive here on the Hoboken waterfront, where they filmed the great movie with Marlon Brando in 1954, and where wonderful things are happening today. So continue following us on the Public Voice Salon. We just spontaneously bumped into my friend Dan Thompson, who is actually one of my heroes as an activist. He's been very active here in Hoboken for many years. He's a guy that goes to council meetings when the chips are down for the people, and he always fights, for good causes. He fights to save. He actually fought to save the waterfront. The reason we're in a park right now is because of people like Dan. We'd probably be like a 20-story condo building right here if it wasn't for this man right here.
It would be a very tall building right there.
It would be a tall building there. So Dan, you're the man. Dan is the man, and I want to give
me and a lot of other people.
But you are a community builder. You create consensus and you bring people together. It's your calm, intelligent manner. You're brilliant. You're a brilliant guy, Dan. You're very, very humble. You're extremely humble. But and Dan also ran for mayor once. I remember. I saw the debate. That was chaired by Karen Listner, actually.
Was it?
She did a good job of that. And now we read in the reporter today that her book might become a best popular movie now. They're actually going to film. So there's a lot of talent in Hoboken. That's what I'm trying to say here. And Dan Thompson, you're part of that talent, and you're part of that genius of this town, of citizens, of people, and we want to just give you a few minutes, just 5 minutes, just to talk and catch us up on what is going on in your life and what is your latest project. You always have a latest activist project, and let's hear Dan's corner here on and Dan in the grass.
Okay, I'll say. Okay, there are a couple things. The first has to do with the fact that you may remember that there was an election to pretty much get rid of rent control last November. The people of Hoboken, 16,444 people voted on that issue, and a majority voted no. We want to keep rent control. No, we don't want to get rid of it. So the no vote won. Then the group of developers and real estate interests that and landlords that backed MSTA, who put it on the ballot, they then went to court to overturn the election. And based upon a list of 114 people that were supposed to be disenfranchised voters, meaning Hoboken voters, because Hurricane Sandy could not vote in Hoboken. They were not allowed to vote on an issue, and that could have changed the results of the election, since we won by only 52 votes. That went to court. That argument was posed, and the judge completely agreed with it and ruled to overturn the election and have a new election. Now, the problem was we were not allowed to, the tenants were not allowed to have any voice. We tried to have intervener status in the case, but we were denied that by the judge. And it turns out that the defendants, who were the county, the city, and the state, the defendants of the election, that were defending the election, did not even properly look at the evidence. The 114 list of 114 voters, it turns out a majority of them were not Hoboken voters. Therefore, that list was was false evidence.
Okay.
Yes.
The fix is in.
Yeah.
Dan, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you. No. I want to keep you on the show, but I want to just, make it a little more dialogic, a little more. I want to say a few things.
Oh, please.
I'm so happy for what you're doing. I want to just tell the audience members that I saw you years ago at a city council meeting. One of the first times I ever went to a Hoboken council meeting, and this is before I had a public voice. This is when I would sit there and look at the people at the microphone and say, "My God, how do they do that?" I would be so terrified. You're getting up at the microphone, and those council people are glaring at you over the dais, and like, oh my God, it's like Mount Rushmore up there, and I said, this is a man who's not afraid to speak his truth. And now look at me, I have a television show, I got you on the air.
True.
And you're a man, you're vital what you're doing in this town. We don't have a lot of time to go into too many details about that issue, but just to, this is a guy who's fighting for the people, he's fighting for the tenants, okay? We have some bad interests in real estate, we also have good interests. I'm a real estate person, and I try to do the right thing. I have an ethical business society that I started.
No, I'm just...
But Dan, I want you to have some, moments with the public here. How can the people learn to get more active? We had also on our show David Cogswell once. Cogswell,
yes.
He was also on one of our shows. You were in one of the round tables with David.
Yes.
The two of you guys are my heroes. But how can people learn to be more public? We're very privatist now. People are going from work to home. What is going on? What's your analysis of the larger systems of what's happening in our country? Because I know you're a systems guy. You went to Stevens. You studied mathematics. And if you could briefly summarize, what's happening in this country, Dan's treatise.
Okay, I do think that you're correct that that people are not involved. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of things going on, and people must A, become aware of and understand the issues, and B, they have to do something and organize to do something about it. And just to complete the last thought, we are appealing that decision of the wrong decision of the court.
Wow.
Hopefully, the election will be upheld, and that doesn't mean that this issue is over with, but what I'm very disturbed about is that democratic elections can be overturned if the people who go to court to overturn them have enough money, and that's one of the problems we have, is that the people who do not have the money do not have the voice, and that's one of the things we're finding, is that democracy is being undermined, and that this is one of the things that we have come across and we have to deal with.
And what about the media? You think there's any way that we can get a powerful media of progressive people like yourself, who could actually get a voice and get a hearing out there? I mean, do you ever watch television? Do you ever watch like Sean Hannity and CNBC and Rachel Maddow?
I haven't watched TV since the beginning of 2010.
So you've had it. You're just frustrated. A lot of people. I'm finding a lot of people are saying that, Dan. A lot of people like you are just. Is that what it is? You just don't turn.
Well, no, it's just a matter of the fact that you only have so much life, and if you have a lot of stuff to do, then you don't necessarily have time to watch the TV.
Well, Dan, you should have a television show of your own. You should be a media empire, Dan.
No, I'll leave that to you.
But we love you coming on the show, Dan, and we hope that you'll be a frequent guest. And by the way, we didn't set this up. It wasn't like my people spoke to Dan's people or anything. There were no lawyers involved here. It's just boom, there's Dan walking down the street. Come on, Dan, let's come on. This is how things should, spontaneity. Get back to that bohemian culture.
Okay,
what do you
can I say just one last comment, and that is that for those of you who are living here, one of the things that may be coming down the pike is that they may be attempting to install what are called smart meters in people's homes, which will communicate with PSE&G or United Water via radio frequency communications, which has the potential to be a health hazard.
Oh, wow.
So that's one thing that's, I am not completely sure about that. I am concerned because PSE&G is partnering with the city and with Sandia Labs and with the Department of Energy, and we're a little concerned that this smart grid business might lead to health problems.
Well, Dan, you're a man of science. You went to Stevens Tech, great university, right over here, just a half a mile up the road. Now, Dan, this global warming crisis. I mean, why aren't we listening to the scientists on this? I mean, we have these ecological disasters coming at us, and hydrofracking. That's going to come right under the Hudson River. Any final thoughts, just on global warming and hydrofracking?
Yeah, the final thoughts are that. Unless people get involved and indicate very clearly that they're concerned about things like what you're talking about, energy problems and so forth, that they will continue, and it simply comes down to money.
Okay.
There's profits to be made by these technologies and so forth, and so people have to get involved, have to organize, and have to do something. Otherwise, the forces that want to push things through, who have the money, will do so, and we will continue to move in that direction.
Dan, I'm writing you in for governor, okay? I'm writing you. Dan, thank you for being on our show.
You'll be the only one.
Okay. So today is June 23rd. It's the next day from the previous segment with my conversation with Dan Thompson on the southern part of the Hoboken waterfront. We're now on the northern waterfront area of Hoboken, and it's just a gorgeous day, and it's lots of sunshine, and it's sort of partly cloudy, so the sun is moving in and out of the clouds, and the wind it's very dynamic and energetic, and the waves are sort of capping here and crashing into the shore. You see we have a ship, big cruise ship, heading out in quest and adventure, and I guess something could make us feel about our own lives, about whether or not we feel stuck, and whether or not we need to go out and search. And our program likes to encourage that, and so does my teaching philosophy, to break with the mundane, with the ordinary, with the routine, with the banal, to become a person, to grow. I think in our culture today, where there's a lot of constriction, there's a lot of narrowness coming at us from many areas, in large part by the media that we're exposed to, which is very corporatized, and it's taking away our humanity, I believe. And so with this program, we're trying to recapture that sense of spontaneity, that sense of being a human being among others and in dialogue with others. So even being out here, I'm kind of also inviting others to join the dialogue if they see what's happening and they'd like to take part and join in a conversation. I had a nice conversation this morning in a cafe in Hoboken, and actually it's a new cafe. I went and got my coffee this morning, and there was a bright young man behind the counter who was studying literature, and we were able to have a very interesting conversation. I find that people who have actually studied the humanities are, what can I say, more human, more open to connect with others and looking at other people and getting into a conversation. I guess, now we're becoming much more technocratic in our society. We're focusing more on, again, I've said this again and again, and it bears repeating, that our educational system needs to be radically transformed, and we need to bring back philosophy, we need to bring back art and history. We're forgetting our history. I actually read that there's a new book out that just came out, and it's about what would it be like if we studied American history from the perspective of the Indians, of the American Indians. That's what this book is about, and so already some progressive educators have gotten excited about this book, and they're going to be teaching it in their curriculums, and I think that's a wonderful thing, because if we look back at the past 500 years, there's been so much imperialism, colonization, and so much violence against the poor and against indigenous people, against the vulnerable, and all of this has only breeds more hatred and violence in the world that needs to stop. This endless cycle has to come to an end, and we need to move toward peace and caring, and we tried to promote that on the show just by saying it, just by saying these words, peace. Remember 1960s and 70s, there was a whole peace movement going on in the United States of America. People like John Lennon and Yoko Ono were at the forefront of that, and it seems obvious what happened was that this movement threatened certain people of wealth and power who decided to put the kibosh on that, and now we have a society in which there are less mentions of peace, and we worship the business world way too much. We make heroes of people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and we're becoming overly technologized, I believe. Spending too much time on Facebook and Twitter and these kind of things. It's just ridiculous. I wish I saw more people with books, reading actual books, and you don't see that as much. You see people with the iPods, and we're a critic of that. I think people with iPods, this is my message to the iPod people now. I think you should really care about where these gadgets were made, right? A lot of them, most of them are made in China in a factory that's very oppressive, that overworks people, that's extremely brutal and has very long work days for low salary, and has actually a very high suicide rate, that particular factory that makes iPods. So the next time you're downloading an app or something, and probably something that's kind of boring anyway. I don't know. I mean, it's like there's very few things as exciting as an actual work of literature, I think. Maybe I'm prejudiced because I'm an English teacher, but to get into a novel, a rich novel that has details about life and everyday situations that you can relate to, and you can grow and you can learn and you can just really, lose yourself in a beautiful work of literature, whether it's classic or contemporary. I don't see how that holds up. I don't see how looking at some iPod app, I see people scrolling, and these very, technocratic, very generic-looking computer screens are popping up all over the place. And I just wonder what that is. I hope it's a fad, that will one day pass. And not that I'm a Luddite, I'm not anti-technology, but I think we need to get back to ideas and talking like human beings, and our show is dedicated to that. And my wife Claudia is filming me. I'm very grateful to her to be part of this, and just happy to be alive and here standing in front of you on the Hoboken waterfront, one person standing in the public space and saying things that I think need to be said, and that are not being said, and trying to speak in a human voice, okay, not reading a cue card, or not breaking to go to a commercial, and under all those kind of pressures. What we really want to do is to get back to face-to-face conversation, get back to interaction where people can get to know their neighbors and tell stories, and then, in the context of that, people can start talking about the problems in the society. Some people walking by, that need to be repaired, like the injustices and the inequities and the gross inequality of wealth that's really, suffocating 99% of our planet and humanity, to enrich a small minority of extremely wealthy people now, who have really taken control of the political process and the media, and we're going to fight to take that back, and we hope others will join us. So at this point, I would like to read a little bit of French philosophy. I brought a book with me by Paul Ricoeur, and maybe I'll go to a different location to sort of make it more interesting as we move around the northern Hoboken waterfront, and I'm going to read some Paul Ricoeur, who is a wonderful French philosopher, and I don't know when the last time French philosophy was read on the Hoboken waterfront, but it's going to happen now. Well, Claudia and I found this wonderful spot on the waterfront here. It's a very cozy little corner, and it's actually 3 benches facing each other. Claudia, maybe you could just show the other bench there. And I think this would be perfect to have a nice conversation, a dialogue. If we get a group of people, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could have up to 6 people here sitting in a circle and having a discussion on culture and politics and critical issues of our time. A nice little salon on the waterfront, a soiree, so to speak. And I think that would be a wonderful thing. We could think about that, and if any of you watching would like to be part of it, please, reach out to us and see what we can do. Now, I'm about to read from a book by Paul Ricoeur. I'm going to show the book right now. Paul Ricoeur is an important contemporary French philosopher. Actually, 20th century was his period, and here's the book. It's called Interpretation Theory, Discourse and the Surplus of Meaning. Discourse and the Surplus of Meaning by Paul Ricoeur. And isn't that a beautiful color? I just love this book. I've read it. Actually, I read it once, but I made a lot of notes, and now I've been rereading the notes. So it's a very sustaining, very nourishing book, and I'm going to read a little bit to you just to share. And but first I want to show a picture of Paul Ricoeur. This is what he looked like here. He lived to be 92, I think. So he had a very, very, very long life. Is that good, honey? Can you see that? Whoops. Oh no. Okay, wait. There. Let's try that. Okay. And this book actually was written based on a series of lectures that Ricord gave at a university in Texas. And I'm going to read a little bit from the introduction just to give a context of what the book is about. And just one paragraph from the preface. It says, in the fall of 1973, Paul Ricord journeyed from Paris to Fort Worth in Texas to deliver a series of lectures as part of the centennial celebration of Texas Christian University. That series bore the title Discourse and the Surplus of Meaning. The expanded text published here under the title Interpretation Theory retains the earlier title as a subtitle. This change marks the development of the text into a systematic and comprehensive theory that attempts to account for the unity of human language in view of the diverse uses to which it is put. So I'm just going to read a very brief excerpt just to give us some ideas here to think about from philosophy, from French philosophy, and this is has to do with communication and how communication helps us to overcome a feeling of isolation and separateness and alienation that's become so endemic in our times, and has been documented in books like The Lonely Crowd and other works, including Michael Lerner's Politics of Meaning and other philosophers. So let's take a look at what Ricord says here. No, I'm trying to find it here, the beginning part. Let's see. Okay, here we go. For the linguist, communication is a fact, even a most obvious fact. People do actually speak to one another. But for an existential investigation, communication is an enigma, even a wonder. Why? Because being together as the existential condition for the possibility of any dialogical structure of discourse appears as a way of trespassing or overcoming the fundamental solitude of each human being. By solitude, I do not mean the fact that we often feel isolated as in a crowd, or that we live and die alone, but in a more radical sense, that what is experienced by one person cannot be transferred whole as such, and such experience to someone else. Okay. My experience cannot directly become your experience. An event belonging to one stream of consciousness cannot be transferred as such into another stream of consciousness. Yet, nevertheless, something passes from me to you. Something is transferred from one sphere of life to another. This something is not the experience as experienced, but its meaning. Here is the miracle. The experience here is the miracle. The experience as experienced, as lived, remains private, but its sense, its meaning becomes public. Communication in this way is the overcoming of the radical non-communicability of the lived experience as lived. So just to reflect on that, on the miracle of communication and how we overcome our separateness by talking to each other, I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing to know about. And I just felt a raindrop, so I don't know if we're going to have to move soon, but let's just enjoy these moments to share on the Hoboken waterfront, and just one person talking to other people, and my wife here, Claudia, filming me, and inviting others to become part of the discussion and conversation. And a conclusion about what I read. Claudia just suggested that I make a conclusion about what I read. Well, I guess I would say for me, it would point to actually a new beginning, maybe, like of a way of opening up the conversation and creating these miraculous moments of dialogue here on our show that we can share with the public, and also encouraging people watching us to not be afraid to talk to others and to reach out to others and to strangers. I notice there's a lot of people around us here in the park and on the waterfront and sitting on the grass, but it seems like, a lot of people wind up talking to the people they came with to these kind of public spaces, and maybe there might be an area set aside in public parks for people who want to meet other people and to connect with other people, a talking area maybe or something like that. It's just the thought I have to share. And also, there's something I want to say. This is a very important thing I want to say. I heard this morning, I was at the cafe this morning in Hoboken, and I heard the terrible thing that they're actually planning to put a racetrack on the waterfront in Hoboken, which is only a couple miles up the river, and that to me would be the worst thing they could possibly do, is put a automotive racetrack to have like stock car racing and Formula 500, whatever they call it. I mean, this to me is just the worst possible thing. The noise, the pollution, and the culture of cars is just something we need to be getting away from, 100 miles an hour away from anything to do with celebration of cars, in a culture in which literally the planet is dying because of cars. And it's just really a terrible, terrible thing. And I hope that the residents will rise up and defeat this proposal. I just can't imagine a racetrack on the Hudson River here just to despoil the beautiful scenery and beauty we have. It would also obstruct the walkway that they built that goes from Bayonne all the way up to Alpine. It's a public walkway, and this racetrack would basically cause a major disruption in that. It would create a lot of noise for the residents who live in the condos, on the waterfront. So if anything, this has got to be defeated. And I think we also need to move past the culture of cars. We're in a spot that was devastated not too long ago by Hurricane Sandy. Today is a gorgeous day. It's a very idyllic summer day in June, but you could look around and see that a lot of the trees were knocked down. Barely maybe 6 months ago, you had major floods here. A sailboat was actually picked up and deposited very far inland. So you had a really terrible storm that came through here, and as a result of global warming. It's been documented. Scientists have proven that the storms are going to continue to get worse. The ozone will continue to be depleted, and if it gets worse enough that the ice caps up on the North Pole begin to melt, which they're melting actually already, but if they continue to melt to a point that they will release methane gas, which is trapped underneath it, in which case, that could be a doomsday scenario. So we have to really limit cars. We have to move toward electric cars. We have to create communities that are car-free, which is what they did in Vauban, Germany. It's a community that is in a part of the country which is close to Switzerland and near Freiburg, Germany, where there's a lot of activity by the Green Party there. It's very strong. I think that brings us back to a political problem, which is how do we get money out of politics? Because the big money dominating our political process is really destroying our democracy, and it's destroying our planet. So if the Democratic Party is not going to put it biblically, push the money changers out of the temple, if we don't get some real leadership in the Democratic Party, which I don't see right now, aside from actually people like Dennis Kucinich and a few people like that, Bernie Sanders also from Vermont. We've got to have a major transformation in our politics. We need to get the Green Party going strong again. Claudia and I went to the Left Forum 2 weeks ago at Pace University in downtown New York, and Jill Stein gave a very rousing speech about the ecological crises which is coming down upon us, and also Noam Chomsky echoed her remarks when he spoke there too. He gave a major address about the climate crisis, the theme of the Left Forum this year was ecological and economic transformation. So that's the key word, transformation, the T word. I'm going to say it over and over again. We need to transform our society. We need to stop electing the same old politicians, the empty suits that were controlled by the corporate culture. We need to get back to campaign finance reform, which is something that John McCain was actually, believe it or not, he was actually advocating before he got crazy and put Sarah Palin on his ticket, a woman who is really, to me, kind of psychotic. The fact that she could have been vice president, that's a very frightening thought that all Americans should be shuddering right now, and we can't let this happen. We have to restore some sanity into our politics. We have to restore some sanity into our country. More and more people are depressed than ever. Americans take more Prozac than any other country, more pharmacological antidepressants and these kind of things. So the pharmaceutical industries are way too powerful. They got to be pushed back in their place. The insurance companies got to be put back in their place, and we have got to create a real politics, because we don't have a politics in America now. In the real Greek sense, the Aristotelian sense, that politics is to help create the good life and to create the maximum happiness for the most amount of people. That doesn't exist anymore, and it's strictly a race to the bottom by corporate America to really. It's a scorched earth thing right now. They're trying to make as much money as they can, and to heck with everybody else. So we've got to reverse that. We need more citizens to rise up, to get together with their neighbors, and but at the same time, we have to really also keep in mind the good things that are happening, and discussions about art and consciousness raising and peace and love and culture, and all these things can also be talked about. I don't like to be strident, but I do like to say that, we need some changes, and hopefully we can be a part of that in our show. But at the same time, we have to live our life, we have to be happy, we have to love each other, we have to bring more love into the world. The Beatles were right. They said all you need is love, and love is very important. All you need is love. Dun, 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 dun. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. And really, love is something which is a concept that we need to really explore philosophically, existentially, and politically. Eric Fromm wrote a book called The Art of Loving, which, if you haven't read it yet, I think it's a great book, where he talks about the difficulty of loving in a hyper-capitalist society. Well, he didn't say hyper, he said capitalist, and that's another thing. I mean, the idea that there's not that much talk about socialism, I think we need to correct that and get more honest dialogue out there in the public space. We have socialism, we have capitalism, but it seems like we hear a lot about capitalism and not that much about socialism on the airwaves, and so that's another thing to keep in mind. Einstein was a socialist, and a lot of very smart people were socialists, and I'm joined here by my lovely wife Claudia, my dear sweet angel, who, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have a show.
I would like to say some words.
Sure, my love.
John just sang all you need is love, and I wonder if people really knows what love means. Love means to take care of the other person. Like the Bible say, when you understand the other person and when you suffering with the other person, that's love. Love is not just me and look at myself and I have this or I have that. That is egotism. And probably, I don't know, people probably is gonna think I'm like too from Latin America, and I'm very proud to be Colombian, because in Colombian culture, even we have too many troubles, political troubles, social troubles. The people is happy, but the people over there is happy because we try to share what we have. We have to live in community. We try to have fun what we have. And here people has too many things. They have houses, they have cars, they have the best job, they make a lot of money, but they are really happy? I don't think so. No. That's a big problem. So one of the things I want to leave to you guys, in American or all around the world, because this show goes around the world, is we do really love the other person that is next to me. Do I really care about them? It's very funny when you go in this on the buses from Hoboken to New York in the morning. People comes with the iPods. We criticize too much about the iPods, but the worst thing I see is older people come in, and the younger people doesn't stand up and give the seat to the old people, or give the seat to a pregnant woman, or they don't give the seat to a person who is with disability. Because why? They think they are the best, and they think they need to be sitting there. Yes, they pay in the fare, but we have to think in the other person. We have to give the places and respect to older people and to our neighbors. That's basic culture, that's basic urbanism. So so I'm gonna give back the microphone to John.
Wow,
and hopefully
wonderful.
we can learn more about love.
Thank you, Claudia, my dearest. I love you. And Claudia just delivered a major speech on love here on the Hoboken waterfront, and I'm very grateful for that. And, again, since I met Claudia, I found her nurturing presence and her kindness and her love has helped me grow a lot, to the point where I could even think about having a television show, and also to the point where I could start actually writing books. I always wanted to be a writer all my life, and had published a few articles and essays before I met Claudia. But once we started going together, and she started to really believe in my dreams, I started to actually write books, and some of those books, hopefully maybe one of you will come across one day. And so anyway, we are just happy to be alive and to be able to speak to you. And some of what Claudia just said, I think also we should reflect on some of the good things that have been happening in Latin America, that some of the political movements that have been begun there. For example, the vice president of Bolivia spoke at the Left Forum, and he's a socialist. And also, when you think of all of the harm that was done to Latin America because of imperialism, beginning with the Spanish conquistadors, and then continuing with America, with North America. And if you look at the analysis that Noam Chomsky has given on how America has supported dictatorships in Latin America, and how the World Bank continues to oppress third world countries, including in South America and Latin America, the fact that these people continue to be loving and kind and caring and want to come here to the north, to the United States, and live a meaningful life, and be part of the community, that says a lot about their own sense of love and forgiveness and caring. And we're very lucky to have Claudia and people from Latin America, who I think can teach us up here in the north a little something about love and compassion. The other thing to mention is that there is a type of religion known as liberation theology, in which there is the linking of spirituality to social justice. And this is a movement that primarily was begun in Latin America. And I would say that this inspires me as a member of the network of spiritual progressives, trying to fight for a politics that's more kind and loving, and because social justice has a spiritual component, right? Most religions will tell you that it's important to take care of the poor, the vulnerable. And now we're living in a society, especially here in America, in which it's all about how rich you can get. It's lifestyles of the rich and famous. And that sense of uncaring, that sense of selfishness has become rooted in the culture. And we need to get beyond that, and we need to educate beyond that, to bring back a sense of love, a sense of spirituality. We have to stop making things that we don't need in our economy. We need to only make things that I believe are necessary. And in a capitalistic society in which you have things that are made that are not needed, that basically toys and tchotchkes, and then we have an advertising industry that basically convinces people that you need to buy these things and really you don't need these things. We have to become less selfish. They're building these McMansions, which are, God knows how big they are, and it costs energy and money to heat them, and meanwhile you have people that are homeless and living on the streets. So we really want the show to wake people up, to bring people back to a commitment to justice and caring and love and peace, and to move beyond warfare. Also, to give peace a chance, as John Lennon said, but also to educate for peace in the schools and outside the schools, and a little bit at a time. I think we'll be fine, and but we really have to be aware that there's a major crisis that's coming down on us now because of pollution, because of the ecological crisis, and because of industrialization, which began only 100 years ago. We now are facing the fact that the carbon content in the atmosphere is 400 parts per million, which scientists say is unsustainable if we continue at this rate. So we have to start moving towards green energy, and I think that Jill Stein is right when she says we need a jobs program in America based on green energy. Okay, a Green New Deal. That's what she calls it. And okay, so I've said a lot about politics. Now I just want to focus on being and relaxing and being on the Hoboken waterfront. So I hope you enjoyed our program so far, and thank you for watching. Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Public Voice Salon. Our goal is to bring a sense of democracy and humanity to the airwaves, along with a spiritual sense of love and a sense of hope for a better future that might be. Tonight's episode was filmed entirely on the Hoboken waterfront, so we enjoyed some beautiful scenery in the background. And I guess you could say this was our version of the 1954 classic starring Marlon Brando, only our program is designed to bring hope and caring to the people, and we invite you to be part of it in the future. On behalf of my lovely wife, Claudia, thank you for watching the Public Voice Salon.